All right, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 9, Corporate Social Responsibility. CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility. You need to remember that. They used to talk about it and call it ethics. And we still talk about ethics, and we're going to talk about ethics now, but corporate social responsibility. That's got to be part of your strategic plan. You have got to understand that, number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, from a Machiavellian standpoint, if you're not socially responsible, things aren't going to work for you. Things aren't going to be easy for you. If you do have social responsibility, there are all kind of benefits that come from that. Now, that's not why you should be responsible, but those are some very good outcomes of that. So we're going to talk about that from several aspects. Number one, it's the right thing to do. I believe that. It is truly the right and ethical and moral thing to do. The second thing, it also helps you in all aspects of your business. So you have it's a double-edged sword here that works well. So we need to talk about that. And a lot of times we talk about corporate responsibility and it's like in isolation. Well, let's do this thing over here. Let's do this United Way thing over here. Let's do this. It needs to run through your entire strategic plan. It has to. It can't be something that today let's be corporate, let's be responsible today, have some corporate responsibility, and then for the next month we're not focused on it. It needs to be every day. It needs to be part of the theme, the fabric of your organization, and therefore it's got to be built into your strategy. It's got to be all the way through your strategic plan, and so that's the way we're going to approach it. It's a big topic. It's a huge issue. Where do we start? We could take it from a legal standpoint. We could take it from a moral standpoint. We could take it from a cultural standpoint, societal standpoint. The point is, we just need to start talking about it. And that's a big problem, in my opinion, with ethics, is it's so big we don't even know where to start. Pick a point. Pick one of those and start talking about it. That might not be the most important part, but at least start there, and we'll eventually cover the topic. We're going to talk with some basic principles and thinking on ethics right now. We're going to start with that, and then we're going to lead from that ethical standpoint into that social responsibility, because I believe that's the way it flows. You have to have that ethical grounding individually and as an organization before you can then move into that area of social responsibility. So, this is going to be real amorphic here, and I apologize for that, but we're smart enough to talk about that, so that we're going to start. When you deal with ethics, there are two common views. One is called ethical universalism. It's right or wrong no matter what, when, where, or how. If it's wrong to do in the United States of America, it's wrong to do in Saudi Arabia. If it's wrong to do to a male, it's wrong to do to a female. It's universal ethic. If it's wrong, it's wrong. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your culture is, et cetera, et cetera. And we've got examples of that where we go, well, that's terrible. In some countries, you can't educate women simply because of their gender, because of their X and Y chromosome makeup. You can't educate them. Well, most societies say that's ethically wrong. Well, there are some very big societies and very, powerful societies that disagree with that totally. So that's the deal with ethical universalism. It's wrong no matter where you are. However, if we take that attitude, that means I don't have respect for your religion. That means I don't have respect for your culture. Your society is wrong if you don't fall into it's wrong no matter what. So on one side, I go, that's great. You shouldn't kill people. And I say, let's apply that across the board to everybody. Well, there's some societies go, that's not really true. If you need to kill somebody, just go ahead and do it. There's all kind of reasons that are justified to kill people. So that's ethical universalism. The other side of that coin is ethical relativism. It all depends. If it's wrong over here, it might not be wrong over there. You just don't know. It's okay for local cultures or religions to take precedent over these behaviors that on one hand I think are unethical, but because they're now couched in this cultural or religious viewpoint, well, that's your opinion and that's the way your beliefs, and so we'll deal with that. Things like bribes. Going to another country, and in the United States, if they catch you bribing, I'm not saying we don't do that. If they catch you, you can go to jail. In other countries, it's expected. It's just assumed when there's no law against it. And number two, if you're going to go do business in that company as an American company, in that country as an American company, and you don't bribe, you are absolutely at a disadvantage. You have no competitive edge. So I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you that is the truth over there in some of these countries. So is that okay? Things like we don't deal with women. American company wants to go do business in that country. They don't send their high-ranking female employee who would normally take charge of this because this country doesn't respect women and won't deal with women. So do you say, I'm not going to do business with these people, or we'll send the guy this time? Underage labor all over the world, child slavery. These things exist, and we know they exist. So you take the idea that, well, it's relative. That's their issue. I don't like it, but that's what they deal with. But I'm still going to deal with them, or I'm not going to deal with them. So you've got ethical universalism. You've got ethical relativism. But here's the deal with ethics. If you push ethical relativism to extremes, it breaks down. In other words, I'm bending the rules to begin with. Well, I believe in gender equality, but they don't really, the women in that country can't even get a driver's license. Those countries exist, thank you very much. We don't educate these women. If you're a girl, you do not get educated. But I want to do business over there. But, my workforce is made up of 50% women, and we honor that and respect that, and great contribution. But that we can't send a woman over there, even though that'll do good for her career, and et cetera, because they won't deal with that. So maybe we'll send a guy this time. All right, so you've already started to bend. When do you stop bending? So it's okay not to send a woman to negotiate, but I'm not going to bribe. I'm not going to take a bribe over there. Well, we've already bent the rules with the women. Might as well. What's the harm in a little bribe? And so you give them the bribe and you get the business, and then you find out something else. In other words, once you start bending, you're just going to keep on bending. That's a danger with ethical relativism. Where do you stop? Where's that final line? No, I've done this and I've done that and I've done this, and all those are against my ethical directions, but I kind of live with it. However, here's my line. You're going to hit that line sooner or later, and then you're really going to have a problem. So ethical relativism, and I'm not being holier than thou. I'm not taking a position personally. I'm just saying that it's difficult when you go to that relativism issue. Because you're going to reach a line where you don't want to cross. To kind of combine ethical universalism and ethical relativism, they've come up with something called the social contract theory, where it takes a collective view. It kind of cherry picks the real good things from all these cultures and uses that as a social contract. We'll honor your cultural values up to a point. Now, what's the difference in that and relativism? Well, at least you've said it. You've got some rules before you get in the game. Relativism means you just make them up as you go, kind of. Social contract theory says, yeah, I understand, you don't give women the vote, and that's your opinion, and however, when it comes to child labor, so there's a point, and I don't know what that point is. But there's a point where you say, that's it. We're not going to get to the line and decide. We're already going to have the line drawn. That's what we're going to decide. But you need to think about that because you're going to run into these issues during your entire business career. Some of them won't be large and huge, and a lot of people go, any of them are the same, whether they're big or small, I don't know. But you're going to run into situations where you're really going to have to take pause and go, daggone, that just doesn't feel right. Let me think about that for a minute. And there's nothing wrong with that. I want you to be aware of that. I want you to go. And so a lot of people say, well, even if you had to think about it, that's wrong. No, just think about it. Let me think about it because, you know, I've got several options, and one of them is to support this organization and do what's best for it. When that bumps into your ethical beliefs, what they want you to do, you have to make that decision. And the decision is to continue on, do the unethical thing, in your opinion, refuse to do the unethical thing, which would probably lead to your dismissal. So there's the dilemma that you're going to face, and I doubt it's going to be a dramatic everyday occurrence, but I would bet that sometime in your career you're going to run into that. So we've talked about ethics in this big global picture, and good gracious, you can get degrees in ethics. And we've just spent 5 minutes talking about it. That's the tip of the iceberg. You need to go. You need to go find this out. You need to research this stuff. You need to read about ethics. You need to come to your own opinion. That's what you need to do. All right. So, but now we're talking about, this is a strategy class. So how do ethics come into play when you do strategic planning? And again, that's what I started out. It needs to run through the entire fabric of your strategic plan. Absolutely. Not like one little box. It needs to color the whole thing from start to finish. And it's got to, because it needs to be at the forefront of your decision-making process. Every time you make a decision, there needs to be a little ethical component that kicks in. And that little question, is this good or is this not good? And what am I going to do? Okay, when you're dealing with your strategic plan and you're trying to come up with, is this ethical? We've got some help here. As you go through your plan, you should be able to answer 3 questions in the positive, in the affirmative. Question 1, is what we are proposing to do fully compliant with our code of ethical conduct? Is it compliant with what we believe in? Are there any areas of ambiguity? In other words, when we make this decision, are we going, I'm not sure, I don't know. Don't say that. If there's ambiguity, say, I know this was ambiguous, but this is the decision we have made ethically. Don't go into it with, well, we'll see. No, we're not going to see. We're going to decide right now. Either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it. Number 2, second question. Is it apparent that this proposed action is in harmony with our core values? We know what our core values is. Those are stated. We've got them in our vision statement. We've got them in our mission statement. We've already addressed all that. It's not time to write the rules. We know what our values are. Are there any conflicts with those values? We need to talk about that. Right now, as we're going through this plan, we need to talk about it. Because if you don't, once the plan's in action, somebody's going to say, you know, the plan says do this, but we believe. It's going to be real hard to explain then. It's going to be real hard to get people to follow you then. And the third thing, is there anything in the proposed action that could be considered ethically objectionable? Let me read that again. Is there anything in the proposed action that could be considered ethically objectionable? Them big words are killing me. In other words, if it tastes bad now in the planning phase, oh my goodness, how bad is it going to taste when we start putting this in action? Would our shareholders, our competition, media, SEC, et cetera, all those external stakeholders, would they view this action as objectionable? Because once it gets out that you've done this or you're planning to do this and people start questioning it, you're going to have to answer to that. You're going to have to answer to that. And some people always say, well, use your grandmama test. Would you do it in front of your grandmama? Well, some grandmamas are criminals, have gone to jail. So you really can't use that grandmama test. So use that. We're gonna be transparent with this. And I want all of my stakeholders to know what I'm getting ready to do. And now, give me your opinion. Give me your 2 cents worth. All right, 3 questions you got to ask when you're doing your strategic plan concerning those ethics things. Those are key. Any questions about that? All right, well done. Y'all good. I like, yeah, let's do that reggae stuff. You guys got it grooving. I'm serious. Thank you all again for all your enthusiasm and your exuberance. I appreciate that. Calm down. Everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be fine. Take a deep breath. We need to get back to class. All right. Thank you very much. All right. It's real hard to determine, are we being ethical? It's not so hard to determine, are we being unethical? When you do things that are wrong, it kind of is obvious, and it kind of doesn't feel right, and it kind of gives you a atmosphere that, man, something's off the rails here. However, we're going to talk about things that can lead to unethical behavior. So I don't want you to wake up one day and go, that's unethical. I want you to be aware. I want you to have this feeling of, man, we're doing this, and that really could lead to unethical behavior. We need to worry about that. First thing that we think can lead to unethical behavior: faulty oversight and the overzealous pursuit of personal gain, wealth, and self-interest. Basically, that means you've let the fox guard the hen house. Faulty oversight. That means you're not paying attention to what your people are doing. That means you don't have any guidelines or policies that are trying to ward off this kind of behavior. Because you're going to have people that personally are trying to make as much as they can, self-interest, and that's usually one of the main concerns with ethics. The Bernie Madoff thing, and I'm sure y'all have read about that. I know that happened a couple of years ago. And everybody goes, oh, the whole stock market is... No, I know some stockbrokers that are honest as the day is long. They're good people, and they do good. Bernie Madoff was a bad guy. He's the one that did all that thing, not the brokerage industry. And that was completely his greed. And number 2, there was no oversight. Read that. SEC had complaints about him, and there was an SEC guy screaming bloody murder. We need to stop this. They ignored him. So that was absolutely faulty oversight. Nobody was paying attention to Bernie Madoff. That's the only way he could get away with that. Second thing, heavy pressure by company managers to meet or exceed short-term earning targets. Managers are under such pressure to meet those target earning strategies. Absolutely, those objectives. It's like written in stone. Well, it's not written in stone. There's so much that can happen to keep you from making those objectives. However, if you don't meet the objective, you failed. That's the attitude we have, which is kind of wrong. But it's like you failed. No, I didn't know there was going to be a war that was going to break out. I didn't know the economy was going to be the worst it's been in 80 years. I didn't know those things were going to happen. Well, you should have known. Well, that's impossible and that's crazy. But that's the reality of it. And managers are feeling that pressure. So because they're feeling that pressure, they are literally beating on their employees going, we've got to do this. It's got to be this. Do whatever it takes. I love that line. And managers use that and then they say, I didn't tell him to be immoral or illegal or unethical. No, you just beat on his head every day and said do whatever it takes, and that was something that it took. So the second thing we've got is there is undue pressure from managers to respond and to meet those objectives. The third thing, a company culture that puts profitable and business performance ahead of ethical behavior. I want numbers, I want sales increases, I want additional profits at all costs. I don't even want you to be thinking about ethics right now, because that's not what we're here about. We're here about profits. Sometimes you'll actually hear people say that, which is crazy. But a lot of times you can tell if that's really what they mean. So you have to be aware of that, and you have to look at those three issues, because that's what we think a lot of times is going to drive this unethical behavior. So you need to ask yourself, are we having these meetings where we just beat everybody into submission about sales? Because if you do, chances are you're going to get one of your salesmen to go, well, I was just trying to do what you said. And you're going to go, we never told you to do that. Well, you were complicit in that. You absolutely helped and did and supported that. All right. There are 5 components of corporate social responsibility. So we've talked about the big things about universalism and relativism, and we've talked about the good things about ethics, and then we've talked about what things you can do as a manager to make people be unethical or kind of lead that. So to kind of wrap this up, we've got 5 components of corporate social responsibility. So are you doing these 5 things? And the key is, are you trying to do these 5 things? Ethics isn't as clean as a checklist. I know I'm giving you all these lists and checklists. That's just a way to start your thinking. That's what this is. So these 5 things are a way to kind of get you in the ball game, put you on the right direction, and make you start thinking about these ethical components or this corporate social responsibility that you really need to focus on. First one. Are you making efforts to employ an ethical strategy and observe ethical principles in operating your business? In other words, as I'm planning these objectives, am I thinking about ethics? Is this really good? Is this cool? Does this fit in with my code of moral? Does this fit in with who I am? With what I am and my beliefs, my values? So are you making efforts to do that? Second thing, make charitable contributions supporting community service endeavors, engaging in broader philanthropic initiatives, and reaching out to make a difference in the lives of the disadvantaged. Are you giving back to the community? Are you finding places in the community that you can give to improve the plight of those that are disadvantaged? Now, again, where do you go? Some companies go, well, we're going to do it all through United Way. Great. Or we're going to pick a particular focus and give to the give it to the local charity that helps battered women. Is that where I'm going to put all my effort? So it's like you don't have to give it to United Way, or you don't have to give it here. You can pick. United Way, we give you a potload of money, and we let the United Way figure out how to disperse that. Giving it to the battered women's shelter, we give it straight to them. And because we have this relationship, because we feel that's where our money should go. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You just need to make sure that you're doing everything you can to help the plight of the underprivileged in your society. Number 3, taking actions to protect the environment and to minimize or eliminate the adverse impact on the environment stemming from my actions, my company's actions. So the first thing is, are we doing anything? Is my company doing anything? The easiest thing is I'm dumping waste in the river. That's the easiest way. But are my actions hurting society? And if they are, I need to get rid of those. So it's not just about dumping stuff into the river or putting stuff in the air. There's all kind of other actions I can be doing that are not benefiting society. So what do I need to do as an organization to reduce this impact, to make it as good as I can? Number 4, take actions to create a work environment that enhances the quality of life for employees. I don't know if I might put this closer to the top. These seriously aren't in order. But this one's near and dear to my heart. If charity starts at home, You can't treat your employees terribly. I don't care about you. I don't care about your families. I don't care about your quality of life. And then yet give millions of dollars to the Ronald McDonald House. You're a hypocrite if you do that. If you don't take care of your employees, how can I ever take care of these external constituents that I have? That is insane. So you've got to start at home. Make sure that you are taking care of your employees in a socially responsible way. In terms of wages, in terms of benefits, in terms of working conditions, training, development, all those things come into play. How do you treat your employees? If you don't treat them well, you can't treat anybody else well, even if you pretend. So you've got to start at home. And number 5, are you taking actions to build a workforce that is diverse and with respect to gender, race, national origin, and other individual differences? Am I being true to the belief that equality is there and that we are trying to not discriminate, we are trying to be as fair as we can with our workforce in terms of their makeup? And that's a difficult task to achieve. Our government has had to get involved. A lot of people go, the government shouldn't be involved. Well, if we'd never passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, we certainly wouldn't be where we are today in terms of fairness or equality. And we're not fair and equal yet, but we're a whole lot farther than we were 40 years ago, 50 years ago. So that's important, that we make sure we treat those groups that have historically been mistreated. We do everything we can to include those as our constituents, equal constituents, because they are. And I hope one day we never have to have this discussion where you never have to say, yeah, you need to treat women just like you treat everybody else, or you need to treat African Americans just like you treat everybody else. One day I hope we never say that. What do you mean? That's insane that you wouldn't do that. We're making great strides. I believe that. But we're not there yet. But your company needs to make sure that you consider that and that you're aware of that. All right, this is Chapter 9. This was our ethic component, our social responsibility. You're going to hear that word a lot more than you hear ethics. You're going to hear corporate social responsibility. In fact, it's called CSR. Because they're going to talk about it. Well, our CSR plan, and you need, don't say what, you need to know exactly, oh yeah, corporate responsibility, we need to be all over that. You let them know you know what that means, and I'm aware of that, and here's some ways we can approach that and pull this out. Use this information. Don't just learn this for a test and throw it away. Use this information on your job. That's what it's for. You pull out, well, there are 3 things that we do that could maybe lead to unethical behavior. They'll think you're a genius. You don't have to memorize it. Just keep your notebook. That's all you have to do. And you'll be the smart one. All right, thanks so much. This is Chapter 9. Peace out. See y'all later.